Google's Bard. Now, this is not probably the first look you might have had at Bard, but it may be maybe the first look you've considered looking at Bard itself. Now, what is Bard? It's basically Google's attempt to catch up with ChatGPT. Is it as good as ChatGPT? Does it do the same things as ChatGPT? Well, I guess we're going to find out very, very shortly. Let's continue this and see what we can make of this whole Google Bard thing. My name's Dante St. James, as I said, from Clickstarter in Darwin, Australia. If you're listening to this, thank you for coming along. It will be replayed on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on what am I thinking of? LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, of course, which is probably what half of you are watching through this right now. So let's get that screen shared and let's get underway and find out more about how Google's Bard actually works. First of all, we're going to look at 3 ways to use it that seem to work really well for this particular tool. It is different to ChatGPT, so that's the one warning I will give you. The first thing that the Google Bard, I've got GPT in the head from days of presenting on it, is that it's very good at summarizing things. It's very good at taking existing things and summarizing them. So an example would be, for instance, if we're looking to summarize the book, Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. So I'm going to share the tab in Google Bard. So Bard is found at bard.google.com. So if you never need to find it, bard.google.com. So we want to summarize the book, Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. Let's see what it does about that. It's going to think about it. One thing you'll notice about Bard, it's a little slower than ChatGPT, not just a little slower, considerably slower. So now we break down Eat, Pray, Love, One Woman's Search for Everything Across Italy, Indonesia, and India in a 2006 memoir. And it's got a breakdown of the book in the 3 parts, which is eating in Italy, praying in India, and loving in Bali. And then the story that gives a really good wrap up of the story being a story of hope and healing and self-discovery, a reminder that we're on a journey and it's never too late to find our way. So it's got some key takeaways. So if you really wanted to get a great source of that, and it's even given a source of this, look at this, Wikipedia, Eat, Pray, and Love. So it's taken a lot of that information from Eat, Pray, Love. One of the things that it'll also do is allow you to have some suggested topics here. So you can look at a summary online. You can see what the real ending of Eat, Pray, Love is, as opposed to the movie ending that most of us would have seen, and whether it's based on a true story. So it's showing Google searches for related topics in there. So that's done a pretty good job of that. So let's pop over to what the next one is. We're looking at summarizing the findings of the United Nations report into the population of India. I've got this one prepared and ready to go. Summarize the findings of the United Nations report into the population of India. Let's run that. And now this is going and summarizing a report that exists out on the internet. And with Google being probably the greatest of all the indexes of what's on the internet, it gives us really good insights into those things. So according to a recent report, India was expected to surpass China in the end of April 2023, which it has now done. It attributes growth of India's population to a number of factors. There's a number of implications that are in there. Then that's great. So it's giving us a great summary that we can get on things like this. Now, previously, if we wanted a summary of that, we'd go and look for that inside of maybe inside of Google, and we'd get a lot of sources of where to go to look at that. Now we're going to look at summarizing the Skywalker saga of Star Wars. That's why our Darth Vader's sitting there instead. So let's share the right screen again. Summarize the Skywalker saga of Star Wars. Let's see what it comes up with us. Now, it's got a lot of material online to draw from Star Wars, so I'll be very interested to see what this comes out as. I haven't searched for this one yet. So it gives us a 9-film story arc that tells the tale of the Skywalker family from the rise of Anakin Skywalker to the fall of his grandson, Ben Solo. Goes through the episodes of each trilogy. So episodes 1 through to 9, giving us a little rundown of them all. So if you didn't know anything about the Star Wars trilogy, 3 trilogy series, now you would know all about it. So you get a really basic rundown of the main story arc of each one of those. So it's a really interesting a summary of what you might be looking for in any movie, any book, anything that is basically available online. So next one is making comparisons and drawing conclusions. Google Bard is actually very good at this. Now, I'll give a warning in front. It may not necessarily be true information that's pulling up, but it is really good. So, making comparisons and drawing conclusions, we're going to look at this one first. Compare the number of Australians with diabetes with the consumption of Coca Cola and draw some conclusions. So, I've got that one also ready to go. Let's share the tab. So, I've got this one ready to go. Let's search what it says. It's going to take those two things, the number of Australians with diabetes and then the consumption of Coca Cola, and then start to draw some conclusions about that. So the ABS said there's one in 2020 said there's 1.7 million Australians living with diabetes. The consumption of Coca Cola is also been increasing alongside that. It says here there is a clear link between the consumption of sugary drinks and the risk of developing diabetes. There's some tips in here to reducing the risk of diabetes, which I think is really sensible for it to throw in there as well. And if I was to look for this in a tabulated format, it might actually said that the increase in the number of Australians and the increase in the consumption of Coca-Cola are both concerning trends. So it's drawn a conclusion based upon that. It's not saying necessarily that increased consumption of Coca-Cola is causing increased instances of diabetes, but it's saying there's a link between what Coke is, which is a sugary drink, and the risk of developing diabetes, particularly in type 2 diabetes. So that's showing us some really interesting comparisons it's starting to make. So when it comes to research, that could be really interesting. I've got a similar one here now going, which is comparing the number of Nepalese migrants in Australia with the number of Nepalese restaurants in Australia and drawing conclusions from that. So let's go again and have a look at what Bard happens to say about that. The number of Nepalese migrants with a number of Nepalese restaurants and draw conclusions about that. So it's saying about 130,000 Nepalese-born people are living in Australia, making the 11th largest migrant group. This number has increased almost 5 times since 2011, so it's an increase. There's now over 100 Nepalese restaurants in Australia with a large concentration in Sydney and Melbourne. There are a number of reasons for the growth of the community. It's saying there's the growth of the Nepalese community in Australia has also then led to an increase in the demand for Nepalese food. So it says there are challenges within the community that Australia faces. So there's language barriers and all that. Some conclusions it then tries to make is there a strong correlation between the number of Nepalese migrants and the number of Nepalese restaurants. The growth of the Nepalese community in Australia has led to an increase in demand for it. Nepalese restaurants have helped raise awareness of Nepalese culture. The Nepalese community faces challenges, and despite these challenges, the community in Australia is growing and thriving. So it's drawn some really nice conclusions in there based upon 2 sets of data that may or may not be related that it could find through its own index on Google. So that's a really interesting way of using Bard. It's very good at getting those sort of facts, and I'll show you soon where it gets facts really terribly wrong. The next one I want you to look at is recommendations. So when we look at recommendations, we're talking about things like this. I want to travel in November 2023, but can't decide between these 3 particular destinations. So I want to travel in November 2023, but Cairns, Bali, and New Zealand, I need Bard to help me decide. So I've got this ready to go. Let's see what Bard happens to say. What's it going to recommend? Is it going to sit on the fence and suggest all of them, or is it going to give me a very clear winner in there? This is where it will help you to maybe decide. So it's actually bringing up pictures of the destinations, telling me a bit about Cairns. It's great because the weather is warm and sunny. The Barrier Reef is a great place to go to. There's rainforest hikes. You can relax on the beach. Then it goes to Bali. It says, you can go visit temples. You can go on a rice paddy tour. You can relax on the beach as well. New Zealand then is known for stunning scenery, including mountains, glaciers, and beaches. You can go to Milford Sound. You can go to the snowboarding in winter. I don't think we're really going to go there in November though, but you can relax on the beach, as New Zealand's also got very nice beaches. In November though, I don't think those beaches would be very comfortable to be going to. So it says here that all 3 destinations are great choices for a 2023 vacation. It says the best preferences based upon, what you want. So if you want a beach vacation with plenty of activities, Cairns is a great choice. You want cultural with temples, then Bali is a good choice. If you want something scenic with mountains, glaciers, and beaches, then New Zealand might be a good choice. So it's helping us to break down those reasons why we want to go to one particular place or another. Now, very quickly, I'm going to show you now what Bard doesn't do so well, and it's really quite funny. It doesn't do sports results well. So I've got an example here of who won the State of Origin match last night. So I'm going to ask that. Now, let's see what it has to say. It's going to tell me that New South Wales won the state of origin last night, which was absolutely not true. It was actually the Queensland Maroons. The match was played at Suncorp Stadium, Brisbane. It wasn't. It was played at Adelaide Oval in Adelaide. And it said the Blues have now won the series 2-1, which is also not true because the series has only played one of the three matches. So it's absolutely terrible at this. It's something that's done really, really badly. Now, I can vote that down and tell them it was actually not factually correct and submit that, and then it'll try to correct itself next time. But that is pretty out there. It got everything that it said wrong. Absolutely everything, just completely wrong on every single count. So that's an example where it doesn't do so well. Apart from sports results, there's also complex multi-layered instructions. So yesterday, if you're on my ChatGPT talk, you would have seen that I put in quite a complex kind of thing, which was saying, let's have a look at some of the the depth of getting people to buy art from artists directly. So I've got this now in here, that same query I put in yesterday. It's a big, long one. Let's see what it punches out. So I've got lots and lots of information, lots and lots of context like I did with ChatGPT. I've even said that I want it to write something which is 800 words long. So it's punched out something. It's done, yes, a quote at the beginning, which is great. It's given me some reasons. It's got some great little benefits here. The problem is, though, it hasn't given me an 800-word article. It's given me about 400 words. So it does about half of what I've actually asked it to do. The other things I'm doing is it's very, very dry. If you're interested in buying art directly from artists, there's a few things you could do to get started. If you're looking for a unique and special way to decorate your home, I encourage you to do this. It's very factual and not very clear. And when I've asked it very specifically in the prompt to be emotional, to appeal to people's emotional, to be compelling, to introduce some, ensuring that each fact leads into the next, finish up with a call to action considering a moral and emotional appeal as it has to how it changes lives. I got none of that in there. So if I want to go in there and say, okay, make this article more human, like I did yesterday, more human by increasing the level of perplexity. And the other word was burstiness. So that's normally what I'd type in the ChatGPT to try and improve what it did as an output. Now, what is Bard going to do with this? Considering I've just done that article, and it says, okay, it's written it with a higher level of complexity and burstiness. So, in what way has it done that? So it's done a bit. It's have you ever walked into a room and felt instantly inspired? It's true. So it's starting to bring in a little bit more perplexity. It's starting to be a little bit more less, logical and a little bit more creative in its response. So it can learn to do this. When I've done this before, it's just come up and decided to define what perplexity and burstiness are, rather than adding such like words such as beauty, inspiration, and personal meaning to your home. So it does get better as you use it. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey to find a perfect piece of art. So it's got then something of a slightly emotional view to it. But I would have to say the comparison between Bard and ChatGPT was very chalk and cheese. I'm still only getting a 400-word article when I ask for 800 words. And the other problem is, though, it's just far inferior an article. This I could copy into any sort of AI detector software and it would immediately pick it up and say, yep, this was definitely shared by AI. This was definitely not written by a human, because it's so dry and it's so very uncreative. And that's creativity is the big problem that Bard seems to have at the moment. It's just not a creative tool yet, but it is getting considerably better. I find that every day it gets that little bit better. Well, I hope that's included some stuff in there you didn't know about Bard, and you can have a go and play with it. It's for free at bard.google.com. Here's my contact details. I do hope to see you at some stage. And thank you so much for joining on these little 10-minute or 15-minute things so you can learn a bit more about how to get more out of these tools, these digital tools for your small to medium business. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next